Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show, it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Hightown. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, we are picking up with this Jackie situation, man. Jackie's, I was just heartbroken the entire episode. I feel so bad for Jackie. Yo, Leslie did her wrong. From the very beginning, I knew Leslie was going to screw her over. I knew things were going to go up in flames. This isn't the way I thought it was going to be. Obviously, she's stressing out. She's beating herself up. Because, we've all been in that situation of I shouldn't have said that. And now it's Leslie's not texting her back, and she goes to work, and she's like, yo, what's up? Can we talk? And Leslie's like, no, we're not going to do this. She's like, I don't want our drama to end up mixed up at work, because that's going to follow me forever, because she's already got to still deal with the aftermath of the Ray thing. But it's also no, you're you want to talk about this somewhere else? We could have literally talked about this anywhere else, but you kept ghosting me. That should have been the point of Leslie's messed up for doing that. Because even later on, when Jackie tries to go see her, what's going on? And she's like, I told you from the beginning, I'm straight. Yeah, we had our moments. I'm like, no. You don't get to pull the rug underneath Jackie like that. That's so, I don't know whether Leslie, because Leslie was yeah, the reason why the dots weren't because I was feeling it and I got scared. It's no, because I realized I didn't feel the same way you felt about me. I'm that's always the harshest reality of somebody. Because Jackie caught feelings hard. She fell for you, but it's also you didn't help the situation. She was oh, it was fun and we had moments. You were crossing fingers, opening up to each other. Once again, I brought this point up time and time again before. You went down on Jackie, because even Jackie was oh, were you so straight when you were eating my pussy? It's yeah, dude. It's we've seen because we've seen every encounter Jackie's had, to my recollection, even from season 1, she never let anyone go down on her. She was in a sexual situation and a lady wanted to go down on her. She's nah, don't do that. Because it's a very intimate thing. Because I know her and Devon, her ex, hooked up last season as well. I don't remember she ever went down on Jackie. She might have. So that's why I'm Devon might be the last person who ever went down on Jackie. And it's just oh, and Leslie's oh, don't you have anywhere else to go? It's that's the sad thing at that point in time in the story. She had nowhere else to go. Because she got so caught up with you, she talked mad shit to Ed. So now her and Ed are in a bad place. Because she apologizes because, his wife Linda had heard about it because of the way she was treating Jackie. And so Jackie's yo, I'm sorry about all of that. I shouldn't have said what I said. And he's yeah, it was kind of messed up for you. You shouldn't have ever said that shit, but it doesn't make it any less true, so I'm going to retire. She's no, I was just talking shit, you don't have to, because she's no, you're and she stops herself. It's just no, I like working with you. She can't even bring herself to be yeah, you're like a father to me, because there's always been a thing between them. He's always played the father role, but she never leans into it, admits it, and he's just no, she's are you doing this to me? He's nobody's doing anything for you. It's I've made peace with it, and so with you. And she's oh, I'm still invited to Thanksgiving. He's yeah, we're doing a small thing. She's no, I get it. And then the moment she leaves, Linda tears into her what did you do to him? And she's I'm sorry. It's oh, did it fix things? And she's no. It's after all the screw ups, he screws up once, and you did that to her. That's so messed up for what you did. To be fair, Jackie deserved everything she was getting in that moment, because it's right, this man who's done nothing but be there beside you, the drugs, the drinking, the sexcapades you've been on, this man's always had your back and supported you. And it's now it's in this moment she kind of has literally no one, because outside of this, her and Ray aren't on good point. Leslie was her partner, so it's how do you I don't know if Leslie's going to ask for a new partner or something, because where do you go from there? Like I said, it's it's on Leslie too. I'm no, I feel so bad for that actress who plays Leslie, because I'm just because I'm you were up to some shady stuff as Jessica in Timeless, and now you're up here doing some shady stuff too. This is yes, Ray shot himself in the foot, but Leslie helped kind of load the gun to an extent, so it's she's not in the wrong, but it's still she's not in the wrong of she has every right to be yo, this, but she could have found a better way to do it, because it's oh, cutting Jackie loose like that. It's like, no, you could have been the adult in this situation and actually talked to her and be like, yeah, I don't feel about you that way about, and because she's been driving herself crazy. Because truth be told is, Jackie at her core is, what is she? An addict. And she's been feeling like, she always feels that hole inside of herself with different things. I don't mean that to be the innuendo that it is, but yes, she uses, sex to fill that void inside of herself, and now it's like she falls in love easily, and so like I think it's part of that addict thing of just having like she has vices and people become her vice. Leslie became her latest vice, and as she started catching feelings, I mean, maybe she just falls in love easily. Either way, it's just like I knew it was going to come down to this, but I still it breaks my heart, especially with everything that's going on with her situation and then everything with Ray, which we'll get to in a second. But I feel so bad for her because she ends up having to she's trying to call up Daisy because she is still unaware of what happened to Daisy, and the moment word comes out about Daisy, I'm curious like how that's going to fall back on both Leslie and Jackie. I wonder if she's going to push Jackie to take the fall for if they find out what happened to Leslie. If they're going to find out what happened to Daisy, is like Leslie going to push it all on Jackie or not. I mean, because Jackie even went to Ray for advice. I'm like, that is kind of because once again, Ray's the only one who's the closest thing she has to a friend outside of all this. But because especially at that point, she couldn't talk to. I'm trying to remember. Did she go to Ray before she went to? She went to Ray before she went to talk to Ed. I believe I could be got that backwards in my head, but regardless. But also, it's like he has experience with that. So you're trying to talk to the man that had an affair with her, that she had an affair with, to figure out your potential relationship situation. He's like, I literally told you not to do that, and now you're walking around with a broken heart. She's like, don't do the whole I told you so thing. Like, just tell me what to do. It's like, I told you she was going to screw you over. And she did, to an extent. Not physically, just literally emotionally. I mean, hell, she even tried to, like catch up with Devon, and Devon was kind of like, Jackie, I'm dating someone. And it's like, so, and just like Devon set her up with the person, and it's like, oh yeah, Devon told me like, yeah, like she didn't care what you did with anyone anywhere, and it's just like, and then Jackie's got that sad moment of just kind of like, right, you kick the lady out, and you're like, let me know about your art show. She's like, fuck you, bitch, and just bounce. She tries to masturbate to a picture of the picture Leslie had just sent her. I'm like, that's sad on so many levels. One, it's the last thing Leslie sent you before things went sour. Two, the fact of the matter is you have to jacking off to your ex is super depressing, and especially because you couldn't even like do your thing because it was just you were so frustrated. You're like, forget it. I'm like, dude. I'm like, that's just. There's just layers upon layers of just how sad that was. It's like I said, I feel bad for Jackie, dude. She doesn't deserve this. So, she's slowly, like, falling down the wagon, and then she goes to the only person she can be around. I think it speaks volume. The fact is that you didn't go over to your tia's, Gloria's place. Kind of like, wouldn't it have been easier just to be around your mom? But I guess it's like, nah, you want to be around your dad. Because, like, her dad being the mess that he is, of course, makes her predisposed to being that as well. So I guess she could have probably she could have gone to be with her mom, but she needed to be around her dad because she needs to like drown out her pain and stuff like that. And she knows like her dad's not going to be like, oh, maybe you shouldn't, because she tried to go to a meeting. Dad didn't. Like she was antsy because other people around her are antsy, and that just makes her more antsy and just aggravated. She's just like, oh, I need to get high or drink or whatever just to feel good. So later on, her dad's like, hey, you want a drink? And she's like, yeah, sure, why not? Like, screw it. It's like, yeah, she was good for a while, and, now she's stumbling back down, like, because that's the sad thing of, like, this is also going to impact her job, too. Like, when the time comes, it's like, she's going to be high again. I mean, we saw how slippery, like that. I mean, addiction, that's the truest form of addiction, is just how nasty it can be and what it can do to your life. But aside from all of this, circling back to the Ray situation, I was almost proud of my boy Ray by being like, nah, get out of here. He's like, you ruined my life. And she's like, I'm sorry, I love you, Ray. I'm like, don't fall for it, Ray. And once again, what speaks so many volumes is you never once spoke the truth, because you never were like, if you probably had opened up to him about like, okay, I killed Jorge and I covered it up, he'd probably still be more willing to help you. You also didn't bring up the you being pregnant thing. And that's what made me kind of look at it like, right, you went to Ray in this moment because he's familiarity, but also, you know, because it's something familiar, it was something that was nice, and she's like, right, like, I did screw you over, and I'm so sorry about that. But it's also because, like, on some level, you know Ray is the dog that he is, in the sense that he's a dog waiting patiently at the door for his master to come back. So you knew that you could pop up in his life and that things would just kind of be, because she needed some kind of normalcy to balance out all the fear she has, because it's like, right, I killed Jorge and that's driving me crazy. Plus, on top of that, if Frankie ever finds out, he will literally murder my face off for doing that. So... But she needed to just kind of like screw her way past all like her fears and just anxiety. Like she needed some form of relief, and she knew she could get that with Ray. But also it's like you're manipulating him because you want him to be in that position where he's kind of hung up on you again. You know you've got that type of power on him, over him. But also it's just to make yourself feel better too. I'm like, nah, Ray, don't get manipulated. I kind of feel bad for Renee, but also it's like she did put herself in this position. She chose Frankie over you, and she's like, I love you. And he was like, yeah, and I loved you until you screwed me over. She's like, I'm sorry, I know. And you're just like, oh boy. So she's even in the car thinking about like what she did to Jorge, and she's like trying to get her story. She's like, yeah, I haven't seen Jorge. He came here for a little bit. Like she keeps saying it over and over, changing it little by little, trying to make it feel more and more natural of a response of like, yeah, Jorge was like here for a fucking bit. He was watching something, then he bailed. So at first, she doesn't have to worry about it as much, but then also, like, Ray, because she's like, oh, you trust me, right? Ray followed her and asked her where she was. She was like, oh, no, like, I'm at the club or whatever, and he followed her to, like, a gun store, and you're like, so I was like, right, why are you lying about where you're at? So because he knows not to trust her. I mean, to be fair, trusting her lost you your badge in the first place, so he's not going to make that mistake again. But because he also talks about it later, he knows she came back for a reason. Like, what made you decide? Because he was even like, how'd you know where I live? She's like, yeah, I knocked on the door of your tenant and found it. I was like, it's like, I don't see that, because I feel like someone would have probably given you the heads up later on if you're like, oh yeah, did that lady ever? Someone came looking. Like, I mean, she's probably, I guess it's supposed to be significant that she's always known where he's lived. That she's probably always known where he lived, and she probably doesn't want to point out the fact is that she did. Because there's some truth to the fact is that she was like, right, I do want a normal life. She did try to approach that conversation with Frankie, but there's nothing she could do about that now. It's like, right, I've killed Jorge by accident. You're not interested in general. You were never really interested in a normal life. So once again, she still hasn't even told Frankie, like, yo, I'm pregnant. I mean, obviously the biggest thing being like, right, if she brings up, oh, being pregnant, and then the baby comes out a lot more Caucasian than he was probably potentially thinking. I mean, especially because the way Frankie Jr. came out looking, so it's like, oh, we're having a kid again, he's probably going to most likely look like at me. If I'm not mistaken, like, aren't the father's genes a little more dominant in that regard? I could be mistaken. I don't know. I'm like, I mean, because she already approached that conversation with her doctor when she was getting checked about her pregnancy and stuff like that, like a couple episodes back. But I mean, you're like, so yeah, like, so she's kind of in a no-win situation. But like, I still feel like this whole Ray situation is, you're trying to draw him in, and then when the time comes, you're going to take advantage of it. It's like, Ray, I need you to save me from Frankie. Oh, putting yourself in a position where, like, you're covering your own bases, but you're trying to, like, pull Ray in enough so that he trusts you, that he will do anything for you, including potentially killing Frankie, or at the very least protecting you from Frankie, because even he's like, oh, I'll protect you. I promise you don't even have to worry about it. But like I said, he called her in a lie about where she was. Where she was going was, she went to buy a bullet to replace the one that she used to shoot Jorge with. And so, obviously the conversation's coming up about like, oh yeah, have you seen Jorge? It's like, oh no, I haven't. Last time I saw him, he was at the club. It's like, oh, do you think he could have taken some money? I don't know. Maybe he could have. Like, you guys only bring in bags. Like, could it be that he took some money? Like, do you even know how much is there? And he looks in the safe, and he also picks up the gun. She's like, what are you doing with that? He's like, what do you mean what I'm doing? I'm taking it with me. Because she also made sure to cover up some blood because you guys, didn't fully clean the scene because there's still some blood on the table. And you're like, dude. And I'm not 100% sure if she figured out because it's like she's making an excuse like, oh, maybe he's with Daisy, and he's like, no, he's not with Daisy. It's like almost like she's like, how do you know for sure? It's like he's just stop fucking talking about Daisy. And I think in that moment she's like, I don't know whether she's thinking like Jorge did something or whether in that moment she's like, nope, Frankie did something to her. I think she's leaning more towards the knowing Frankie did something. Then it's like, oh, cool. Frankie's willing to do that to Jorge's girl. It's like, oh, Jorge's your cousin, you love him and everything, but you did that. But it's like, oh, it shows that you're not afraid to do that to me. So I'm thinking that solidified even more of like, no, I gotta go be like. Once again, you know how dangerous Frankie is, so for you to be sneaking off like that, she's like, I only got a couple minutes, because she was claiming she was going to go buy more birth control, and I'm like, why would you even do that? Unless it is for the sole purpose of luring Ray in. You want him to kind of be honey-trapped to some extent of like, ooh, got a taste of that sweet nectar that he was already addicted to, so now, he'll do whatever I need him to, like a siren song, so I think that's... I still feel like because like why would you like you're already covering your bases trying to make sure he doesn't find out about you killing Jorge, like, so why would you be like banging like Ray on the side? That's too much risk. I mean, because he went to his boy who had got rid of Daisy's body. So I guess we're not, but well, to be fair, a body surfaced last season, but to be fair, that was because of Junior and Osito. Well, that was like Osito did the kill, but Junior helped dump the body, so that's why that happened. So it's like, but he said like, oh, she's going to disappear like she was never born. Granted, they don't know that she's already been tapped by the cops, in particular Jackie and Leslie. Once again, we'll see how that plays out, but so they're going to be checking in for her from time to time. And obviously, Alan's going to be breathing down their neck about checking in with Daisy. He had already gotten on Jackie about it this episode, but it's like he's going to be asking questions more and more. And the moment they can't find Daisy, that's when things are going to get interesting. Now, whether this will be a will the body wash up at some other point in time, he did say he was making it seem like she never existed. So, like, the body probably went through some stuff. Like, I don't know, we talking Breaking Bad barrel type of situation of like, oh, putting you in some sulfuric acid type of thing, or some other means, whatever the case may be. We'll see. Speaking of Osito really quickly, he's doing his thing in prison, spreading the drugs around. Him and Vern working their thing, and obviously he's also working things with his physical therapist because she's like, got a car issue, and he's like, oh, it sounds like I'm being an issue, and she's like, this is the line you just called. He's like, no, it wasn't, that's an inappropriate question. He was like, it wasn't a question. He's like, if you're having car troubles, I might be able to help you out. And we see that basically it looks, I guess that's supposed to be like, and he is like, he left her like a card saying, what's up, doc? And you're like, okay. And your boy is like in prison, like doing some sit-ups, smiling like, ha ha ha. Which makes me think of like Charlie Murphy from Boondocks. Ha, sit that bitch's smiley face. Bitches love smiley faces. R.I.P. Charlie Murphy. But yeah, like it makes me like he's just like, yeah, like I'm the man, like, because I don't know if that's him just giving her a full blown, like, did he get it just fixed or did he just actually buy her a full blown vehicle? I think it's probably he just got it fixed. I don't know. I'm not a car dude, so I didn't pay. Because she had mentioned what kind of car she got. I wasn't really paying as much attention, so I don't know if he just got her a full-blown another car or whether that was just him getting the engine fixed. Either way, it's like, yeah, not really. We'll see how she responds to this, because it might be a thing of like, Osito's like, nah, she's just playing hard to get. Like, I'm a kill her with kindness, and then she's going to be all mine. Blah, blah, blah. I'm running the drugs, and I got the girl. Like, he's probably going to be thinking that. So, somebody needs to get the girl, because, everybody else is failing to some. I mean, Ray's getting a girl, but more so like she's manipulating and using him. Jackie ain't getting a girl. Well, she got laid, but it's not the girl she wanted, and just everything relationship-wise is imploding, and she's walking away with a broken heart. I guess that's the irony behind it. She broke Ed's heart, and now Leslie broke hers. Well, Leslie broke hers first, and that's what ended up leading her. Because she apologized, like, yeah, I got too caught up in Leslie, and I lashed out at you about it. It's like, that's the sad thing of, like, Jackie, you know, and Leslie doesn't care. It's just going to be like, oh, it is what it is. I mean, hell, I forgot to talk about, she invited you over to basically her pseudo-dad's place. Come on, son. Leslie knows she's wrong. She knows she's wrong, dude. I'm so curious to see where things kind of go from there, because that's going to be the most awkward partnership, unless, like I brought it up earlier, like, not unless they switch partners, or like get transferred partners or something like that. But aside from all of that, there is this situation with Charmaine. That was kind of interesting. Like, obviously, like, getting a gift for her sister, and it's like, oh, no, it's gotta be, we're gonna save it till Christmas. You know, it's like, oh, they want to play each other in FIFA and stuff like that. And because she was talking to Frankie about the fact that Jorge didn't show up, and it's like, they made a promise to, like, hit up, like, meet each other, like, they made a promise to, like, link up yesterday, but it's like, and now today's here and he's not around. Neither one of them's talked to him, so obviously Frankie's worried, because he was thinking, like, maybe the cops pitched him, but it turns out he got the contact, and it's like, no, turns out the cops don't have him, so he's trying to figure out where Jorge could be. What also was heartbreaking about the Charmaine thing is, her sister Aileen went looking for her present. Sadly, the drugs were there too, and they already made it clear earlier in the season, you can just touch these drugs and you will overdose, because it's so strong that it will immediately absorb into your skin and your bloodstream just from a touch, and it will kill you. And her sister overdosed. I was like, honestly, that was the most heartbreaking thing, just because, I mean, it's just, that's drugs for you, especially like Charmaine getting mixed up in the business that she did. But also, it breaks my heart because, I won't go into it, but, like, I have a family member that Aileen looks like, and it messes with me a little bit. I'm like, that just left me feeling, like, uneasy. It's just like, it hit too close to home, because it reminds me of a family member. I'll just kind of leave it at that. And I'm like, especially, like, in the face and everything, and just her hair the way it is. I was like, you remind me. It's like, no, I don't like that at all. It made that much more depressing. It's not like, I've had a family member die from that, well, not that I'm aware of, overdosing. It's not what I'm comparing. It's just that the actress who played Aileen looks so much like a family member that it just bothered me seeing her overdose, like that, eyes open, stuff like that. It's just like, so heartbreaking, because she was just going to look for her Christmas present, and you're like, oh God, that's just sucky. And even Alan, when he rolls up, it's just kind of like, damn, that sucks. And he tries to talk to Charmaine. It's like, right, we want Frankie and Jorge. I could, like, do something good for you. But Charmaine's like, I've been across from so many people like you who are making these promises about, like, they're going to help me out. It's like, you don't know me. And the fact of the matter is, I'm doing fine on my own. And it's like, you know, you sit over there and pretend like you care. But he was like, the fact of the matter is, don't get it twisted. Like, me having to come down here and see a brown girl dead. It's like, it hits me. Like, I do what I do for a reason. And it's like, I am going to offer you help, but only in the next 5 minutes. But Charmaine's like, you know, I don't need your help. Like, go. And just, you know, he leaves. And it's just like, yeah. Because at the end of the day, Charmaine is going to be beating herself up, because regardless of anything, you know, because it's like, the thing that Alan was saying was like, yo, you're not grown. You might want to sit here and think you're grown, like you know everything. Aileen, sure that wasn't grown. She was a little girl, and once, you know, Charmaine's gonna feel guilt, because it's like, right, I had those drugs there. Regardless, I'm the one that got mixed up in this game. Like, even if she was a small part of it, this was still my operation. I'm the one that wanted to keep things going, and she's gone because of me now, you know. So that guilt is going to riddle her, and how she responds in that is going to be interesting. She might be the one that might be the Frankie's undoing. Because another element to this is that Ray tried to go to Jackie, and he's like, yo, I think we should look into Renee. And she should have listened, because you probably would have found out about the whole, whether you would have been able to connect it to the Jorge thing. But it's like, right. And she's like, wait, you're messing with Renee. It's like, oh, like, she's like, you're a sex addict. It's like, wait, really? You got to come to me about that? Aren't you smoking right now because of the whole Leslie thing? And so it's like, right, like, you don't fuck your partner type of thing. It's like, because she just told him to get out, but it's also like, she knows he was right. They both knew each other was right about doing what they're doing, but it's like, she wasn't willing to listen to Ray about, like, he made it clear, like, he had something about, you know, Frankie and Jorge, but Jackie was so, like, they had that little tit for tat that she didn't even bother finding out what it was that he knew. And the fact is that he brought that to her. Granted, he got seduced by Renee later on, and he's just like, tell me, whatever it is, just let me know and I can help. And she's just like, you know, it's like, I'm here now. I'm you know, because that was the thing about, like, they both had, she's like, oh, I dreamed about you. He's like, I did too. I had nightmares because I'd wake up and then you'd be gone. And she's like, but I'm here now. It's okay. So, oh, dude, this is a wild episode. It's going to be so interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.